Thank you for joining us. We're probably going to still have a couple more people join in, but these are our virtual adventures. We've been doing them since March. Um, and we have Central Arizona Mountain Rescue with us today, and they are going to be talking about different mountain rescues, different fields of operations, the training that they go through, and the different types of equipment that they use. And they're going to show us a variety of rescues, it seems like. We do have closed captioning. It's next to the red live square up at top. If you hit on Otter Eye of Notes, the thing on the right to it, you can get closed captioning by viewing the stream. Also, if you have any technical difficulties, or if you need, have a question, wait for a pause, or you can ask it in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat, so if you have any difficulties, I can help you with your problem that way. Or if you have a question, I can also ask your question if you would like me to. I'm really excited. We have Spencer with us and we have Justin with us. Just letting you know, we do have some people with visual impairments on. So if you could be as descriptive as possible, that would be awesome. And I'll hop in if I need to describe something a little bit more.
That'd be great. All right, so are we ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right, great. So as you mentioned, my name is Justin Byrne, and I'm the president of the Central Arizona Mountain Rescue Association. And Spencer Smith, he'll introduce himself in about 10 minutes or so, and he's the past president of Central Arizona Mountain Rescue, and we both have been on the team for about 10 years now. But I'm going to get into the team background first, and then we'll talk about kind of our individual association with the team, and then we'll get into the really exciting stuff. So just to start out, CAMRA's background, or how the Central Arizona Mountain Rescue Association got started, was in 1969 we became a team that was kind of born from a subset of the Arizona Mountaineering Club, which is a club that still exists and still around and still active. And what they do is they're made up of a team of, or a club of people that go out and they enjoy the outdoors, and not just the outdoors, but they focus on like the things that most people would consider as like adventure sports or type 2 fun, which is like a lot of pain and getting to the top of a mountain, or ice climbing, just misery with very little reward. But it's something that is self-gratifying. And it's super dangerous usually too. Well, what happened is in the 60s, 50s and 60s, we realized that club realized that there was nobody that could rescue them from the top of the 4 peaks in the middle of the winter, or in the middle of a canyon, as they were like just starting that thing that you've heard about with canyoneering, where somebody will go through like this tiny slot canyon and rappel down off of a rope that's 400 feet, and they're dangling 400 feet from the ground. But there's nobody to rescue them if they got hurt. And so what they did was anybody who was interested from this club, they made themselves like really familiar with rescue and how to rescue somebody that was stuck in those situations. And the folks that were, the team, the mountain rescue team, just celebrated our 50th anniversary. And so some of those founding members that broke off from the Arizona Mountaineering Club, they were actually at this banquet that we had, and they showed us some of their gear that they handmade in their basement. And now there's gear that's like made for rescue, and you hear about so many people that are out enjoying the outdoors that need help. And now there's equipment that you can buy off the shelf, but back then they were making it of their own. So that was in the 60s. We became a team, and then sometime in the 80s, there was always just this written there was always this verbal agreement with the sheriff's office, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and the people that were responsible for rescuing people. And it was like we were committed and we were helping them as much as possible, but it made it a daunting task for these volunteers to show up and you know, like they could never like know if we were going to be there or if we weren't. So they incorporated the membership of this CAMRA into an operational arm of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office in the mid 80s as part of like this rescue disaster that happened where there wasn't really like a centralized it wasn't in Maricopa County, but there wasn't a centralized group that was responsible for rescue. And so by state law, they had the counties and typically it was the sheriff's offices take over that role of being the emergency responder in charge of rescue. In Maricopa County, there wasn't already something that existed within the sheriff's office. They knew that we existed. They relied heavily on us as Central Arizona Mountain Rescue to perform those rescues. And so they took us in as posse members, and the operational arm of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Mountain Rescue Posse was born. That was like mid 80s. So we exist now as two, like the same entity, but it's two different functions. One is our 501c3 operation, which you're familiar with. It's like donations based, and you know, it's like our fundraising and our the part of the team that makes sure that we have the membership and that you know, like we're able to carry out our functions for the operational side. And so the operational side is what we refer to ourselves as the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Mountain Rescue Posse. And when somebody calls 911, that's when we get notified, right? So we are part of the sheriff's office. And that being said, we're obligated through our duty as posse members and this posse to respond when we're called on. And that doesn't just include the Maricopa County, but we will go all over the state and even all over the country if the resources are necessary. So we were we got dispatched to Hurricane Harvey in 2017. I think there were even members that went to Katrina and even before that. And so we are used all over the place. And we have some great examples. If there's even some time at the end to talk about like this one mission where both Spencer and I were pretty new to the team, where we it might be the only one that ever happened. This is just a teaser, but it was basically in a blizzard, like outside of Flagstaff. It was in a blizzard, in alpine conditions, in the middle of the night, in the bottom of a meteor crater, in a mine. Nobody's ever done that before, and nobody's ever done it since. But we responded to that one, and it was pretty incredible. So that's the background of the team and how we got to be known as CAMRA and as the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Mountain Rescue. I joined the team in about 2009 when I first became aware that it existed. There was like this giant snowstorm, and the news was reporting all of these people that were stranded and dying and just in like horrible situation. And I was like, I love that kind of stuff. I know I can survive. I can help. And I called them up, and they were like, there's going to be another chance. We've got a process. Hold on. You got to learn a little bit more before we send you out there to become one of the next subjects that we have. So that was in 2009. It became basically a lifestyle for me. I knew that I wanted to be on the team, and I would do anything that it took. So Spence later is going to go through what it takes to be on the team. But basically, once I was on the team, our minimum basic medical training is EMT. So I'm an EMT. I am also in the last 10 years or so, I've been the secretary for the board. I've been on the operations committee for technical rock chair, and the oh man, I've done quite a few things, like, and I'm always wearing mixed hats. I'm the training officer for the team, so I'm responsible for making sure that we're as a group operational ready for anything that happens. And I do have a memorable mission that solidified the whole thing for me. And Spencer's actually going to present, I think, that mission because we both came onto the team at the same time as recruits, and we were both on that same mission that solidified it for both of us. And he's going to talk about like how he like how that passion like grew in him. So I'm going to turn it over to Spencer, and he's got the next couple of agenda items.
All right. Well, first, I just want to thank everyone for having us. I think this is so great that you're doing these virtual adventures. I think we're all missing get-togethers and getting together with people. So I think it's great that you're scheduling and organizing these events so we can all come together and discuss different topics. And we're honored to be invited as a guest to share with you some information about our team and some of our personal experience being on the team. As Justin said, we both joined the team around 2010. I was a few months behind Justin, but we went through the same recruit class together with 5 other individuals. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But same as Justin, once I joined the team, I went and got my EMT certification. It's very important, obviously, when we're out in the field treating folks, that we have some kind of medical background. On our team, we have everything from EMTs to paramedics to doctors, nurse practitioners, physician assistants. We're very fortunate that these people dedicate their time and volunteer their skills just for the good of the people in our community. Our team is 100% volunteer based. Although we are affiliated with the sheriff's office, no one on the team is a sheriff's deputy. We all do this in what free time we have, and at no cost to the taxpayer. You know, something that's very commonplace is people criticizing people needing rescued and the expense that the taxpayer incurs on these rescues. Well, we are 100% self-funded. All of our equipment and gear is raised through fundraising and donations. We don't accept any money from state or county governments, and none of us receive a paycheck for this. It's all volunteer out of a passion for doing good for our fellow outdoor communities, and hopefully getting some good karma from the universe in the process. Like Justin, and like probably many of you that are involved with a volunteer organization, I also wore many hats in my 10 years with the team. Served on the board of directors for a number of years, the operations committee, and I oversaw our recruit training for a number of years. So we would take people that generally have some outdoor experience and enthusiasm, but not necessarily any kind of technical rescue background. We train them from somebody right off the street to somebody at the end of 18 months is rappelling out of helicopters, performing rescues, hundreds of feet in the air over exposed cliffs. We perform swiftwater rescues. We have many different disciplines that we'll kind of go into each in detail. But I think it's worth mentioning, that the time that these folks who volunteer on this team put forth to, again, just for the out of the goodness of their heart, volunteer for each of one of us that may find ourselves in trouble out in the backcountry. So the recruit process is a difficult selection process. Obviously, lots of people want to help and volunteer their time, but due to the nature of the work we perform, it's important for us to make sure the people we bring out into the field are safe. So we have a pretty stringent selection process. We, as I said, as you see in this photo that's on the screen now, you see those 2 folks rappelling out of that helicopter. Those are volunteer posse members, just like Justin and I, who go through our recruit process. We obviously need to have endurance and physical stamina. As you see, this gentleman in the lower left picture carrying a Stokes litter, which is what we use to transport the patient. So we do a physical aptitude test, as well as kind of a panel interview, just like you're interviewing for a job, to make sure that these folks who are interested in joining the team are a good fit. It's lots of people dislike their job, and that's even when they're getting paid for it. We have to make sure these people have a real passion to do this kind of work, being as they're not going to be getting paid for it. They need to just love it and really have a strong passion for it. Once we make our selection process, we start the recruit training program. It's generally 18 months, and it starts again from the very most basic training of equipment, ropes and carabiners and rappel devices and other various safety equipment, all the way to, swiftwater rescue training, abandoned cave and mine rescue, helicopter rescue, wilderness search, technical rock, so on and so forth. Maricopa County is one of the largest counties in the United States, geographically speaking. We have everything, obviously, from the Sonoran Desert to Four Peaks, with everything in between. Our team within Maricopa County has responded to avalanches, many swiftwater calls, as we all have seen on the news every monsoon season, countless wilderness search missions, and dozens and dozens and dozens of technical rock missions. When I say technical rock, that generally speaking is rock climbers who get into trouble. Obviously, it's very difficult to access these folks. Usually where these rock climbing areas are located, it's difficult, if not impossible, to get a fire truck to these areas. So you wouldn't be able to just access them with a ladder crew. So we'll typically either be inserted by a helicopter or hike in. And at that point, we'll make the call of whether we approach the subject from the top of the cliff and lower ourselves down, or if we climb up. In these photos, you can see in the background, the top one is at a training where we're working with, sorry, they're cycling through, but getting folks that are over the edge of a cliff. The blue package there is a subject in the litter. The lower picture there is actually a mission we did of a dog that was scared from New Year's Eve fireworks and was lost. Some hikers came upon him. He was scared, dehydrated, too tired to go on, had been out for a few days and actually rubbed the paws of his raw. And so it was my first and only German Shepherd rescue. But again, just a very rewarding and happy experience to reunite not only families, but sometimes pet owners as well. Pleasant Sled helicopter, we are fortunate to use and have access of the Sheriff's Office helicopters. We have a lot of missions that we hike in with a tremendous amount of gear and heavy equipment and or carry people out. So it's always a great privilege to be able to use the Sheriff's helicopter to expedite these process. We generally reserve the use of helicopters for life and limb situations. Generally speaking, if someone's able to hike out or if we're able to carry them out, we'll do that rather than add the additional risk of operating with helicopters. But oftentimes we find ourselves deep into the wilderness, which can be 20 miles from the nearest road without a trail. And the helicopter provides a true life-saving resource for the county. The Sheriff's Office has a couple of helicopters. There's also a member of our team who owns his own helicopter that's the identical airframe as the Sheriff's Office helicopter, which we also use. This has been a great resource for us in the past. As Justin said, we operate throughout the state. And a number of years ago, we were called to assist on a mission in the Grand Canyon for a young boy who was missing. Time was of the essence as it was late fall, early winter, and cold temps, and this young boy had been out overnight without appropriate gear. And we were able to send several of our team members up in this helicopter to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, which only took, I think it was 45 minutes or an hour flight rather than a 7 or 8 hour drive. So we could get team members in the field right away to try to help effect this rescue. So again, just another resource at our disposal. You also see an airplane here, which is used typically for wilderness search, for kind of air surveillance. If we have a large area to search, we can deploy this airplane to search overhead. Also, it can help with relaying communications. In areas like the superstitions or Four Peaks, it's very difficult for radio signals to get in and out. So sometimes we can use airplanes and helicopters to help relay communications from team members to the command post. We'll move on to Swiftwater. So as anyone who's lived in Arizona for any length of time knows, monsoon season and flooded roadways are a pretty scary thing here. Regardless of the public service announcements, road closure signs, etc., every year, unfortunately, people drive across flooded roads or are caught off guard by flash floods. And our team responds to those. This is probably the single most dangerous mission we perform. Generally speaking, these missions are performed at night. And so there's an added risk there just from lower visibility. It's also very difficult to communicate with each other over the noise of a raging river. Justin and I have both been on a number of Swiftwater missions. One that I'm very proud of to be a part. We were on the Verde River 4 or 5 summers ago, and we had the privilege of saving 2 young boys out of the Verde River and get them back to shore safely. And it was a moment I'll never forget in my entire life. And I'm very proud of that and very happy to have helped those young boys get home safely and get home to their parents. We all, I think, are guilty sometimes of underestimating the power of floodwaters. And it unfortunately just caught these folks off guard. Here you see some photos from the Swiftwater Rodeo, which is an event held on the Salt River yearly, where different rescue teams throughout the state compete in various kind of rescue scenarios. We share skills and techniques and try to get a kind of collaborated effort amongst the different rescue teams throughout the state. So that way, when in large format rescues where we have multiple resources, we can work well together and communicate and all be on the same page. With a volunteer-based team, oftentimes when a mission is deployed, we may have 20 people respond, or we may have 6 people respond. So we have to be very dynamic in how we approach these rescues, and oftentimes we will request help from other counties, as well as we will support other counties when they need help. Another type of mission we perform often is underground, which is abandoned mines and caves. There's an estimated 100,000 abandoned mines in Arizona, only 10,000 of which are documented. Folks with adventurous or exploration spirit will explore these caves and mines and get themselves into trouble. Again, probably second to Swiftwater, another one of our more dangerous missions underground. In abandoned mines, there's a multitude of risk factors. The way it was put to me when I first joined the team was, when you think about an abandoned mine, a lot of these were created over 100 years ago by a guy with a stick of dynamite and a kindergarten education. And they are so unstable and unreliable that even just loud noises and echoes can cause debris to fall and these areas to collapse. When we go into these areas, we bring gas monitoring equipment, and we use hardwired communications, so that way we can always stay in touch with the members of the team that are above the ground, so we can always communicate and stay as safe as possible. Again, Justin and I have both been on a number of these types of missions as well. These are kind of always the most relieving mission to be done with, when you can get out of the cave or mine and back onto the ground surface. We've partnered with the University of Arizona Xavier Mine south of Tucson, where they've allowed us to come down and train in their educational mine down there, which is, again, has just been a huge benefit. There are untold number of mines in Arizona, most of which, that are known or near trails have been blocked off and fenced off. But unfortunately, people still find their ways into these and oftentimes get themselves into trouble.
This is from San Xavier. It just shows how tight and dark and dangerous it can be. This shoring was done like 100 years ago, and of course, because it's associated with U of A, they've gone to great lengths to stabilize this particular mine. But we don't have the luxury of that when we respond to a mine that's been in an area that hasn't been touched for 80 years, and there's somebody that's stuck at the bottom of it.
Absolutely.
So anyways, I think we're ready to go to the recruiting portion.
Right.
I think you're still up too.
All right. So for recruiting, we talked on this a little bit. We're always recruiting. With the nature of our work and the amount of people we need, we're always trying to bring people on. As Justin said, we kind of have two entities within one. We have our operational side, which is the folks that go out into the field and perform these rescues. And we have our administrative branch, which handles fundraising and public outreach and kind of all the behind the scenes work, both of which are very important, neither of which can exist without each other. Due to COVID, we've had a difficult time holding public meetings and having a strong recruiting presence. But we did recently start a recruit class, which has started their physical aptitude tests and field interviews, and they will go on to start the training process. We, again, kind of vet these folks. As we are associated with the sheriff's office, they go through the similar background checks and hiring criteria as anyone joining the sheriff's office. So clean background and criminal record, stuff like that is always important. Once they have joined the team as a recruit, that's when we start the training process, and we spend kind of 1 month on each kind of various task. We'll dedicate a month to underground training, a month to technical rock training, a month to helicopter training, a month to swiftwater training, which all comes down to the final kind of test, which we call rescue trials. It's a 3-day test that's pass or fail. It starts with a 150 question written test, at which they have to pass with a 90%, 89% is failing. They will do then a in-person kind of skills test on Saturday, which is an all-day kind of personal skills test at a kind of an individual basis, where they'll be tested to perform all the skills that they've been taught over the previous 18 months. They pass through that. Then on Sunday, we'll test them as a team. Usually the recruit class will go together as a group of anywhere from 6 to 12 people, and we'll test them as a complete unit. What we're looking for there is their ability to perform a rescue. What we need from these folks to join our team as a full member is we need to know that we can take them out into a mission and that they can be a positive impact. We have to make sure that we don't allow anyone from the mission to come in and then become someone who needs rescued while we're out there trying to rescue someone else. We need to all kind of have a positive impact and not have anybody become a liability rather than a resource. Justin, do you have anything else to mention in regards to recruiting? Or the
Yeah, so Sarah asks, how many exercises do people have to do?
Well, so exercises in like physical exercise, we kind of count on everybody being pretty physically fit and exercising regularly on their own, just because of the strenuous nature of our work and the heavy loads we have to carry. Exercises in regards to like training exercises, we hold team and recruit trainings once a month, and the recruits are required 100% attendance to those. I hope that answers the question.
Can you give us a thumbs up or a head nod, Sarah, unless you have any other questions?
Are there any certain physical requirements that people need to have to be able to make the team?
There are. We have a kind of a set mountain rescue specific physical aptitude test that we require everybody to go through. And what we've done in the past is if an individual doesn't pass their first time going through it, which is pretty common, we'll typically set these people up on a training program to help them get ready for it the next time we offer it.
Okay, awesome.
We obviously try to be as inclusive as possible. But again, just due to the nature of the work we do, we have to make sure that there's at least a certain minimum level of fitness and ability. Justin, do you have anything else on recruiting?
No, just like at a 30,000 foot overview or view of this is the recruiting is what makes our team stand out and what makes us, you know, like, so we might be the only ones that refer to ourselves as this, but I think that that it's for good and just cause, but we're the gold standard of mountain rescue teams. And it's because we pride ourselves on our recruiting process and the selection. And it's not just, you know, like you walk in and you're good to go. Because the idea is if we can't get that person safe, nobody can. I mean, like, that's the reality of what we're doing is like, we have to know that the people that are on our team are capable of getting anywhere and doing anything that needs to happen in order to affect a rescue. And sometimes that means hiking in 8 miles or 12 miles and 6,000 feet of elevation gain. And then the real work starts, where you have to like strap that person up to a litter and be able to carry them all the way back out while managing their medical issues and managing the health of the team and the fitness. And if we can't do it, nobody can. Like, that's it. And that's the reality of it.
Be able to perform those missions in the middle of summer in Arizona when it can be 120 degrees too.
Because people are crazy and they get themselves into some real hot water.
Yeah. So, ready to jump into missions, Justin?
Yeah.
We have another question. So what percentage of people fail the final test?
50%. Yeah. So, which is obviously, you know, we try to stress that early on. You know, these folks dedicate 18 months of their lives to doing this. And so it's important for them to know that is a very real possibility when they get to the end of this deal. So oftentimes if it's just a lack of, you know, or if it's bad luck or whatever, we oftentimes will invite these people to come back and retest or go through the recruit process again. It's very rare that we don't invite them to come back. And that would typically just be related to like a safety issue or something, some kind of, generally speaking, safety issue that we can't resolve.
What kind of mental stamina does a person need for this type of work? So I think that rescue trials, Spencer, if you want to go into rescue trials and why it's done, when it's done, and what we're looking for, it's not just the technical, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. So rescue trials happens every summer and usually July. We intentionally schedule it for the hottest part of the year. It goes all day, 2 days in a row outside. Our objective there is to generate stress. Performing these missions is very, very, very stressful, and we need to make sure that team members can operate under that stress and can still perform safely and effectively under a tremendous amount of stress. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to recreate the type of stress that's induced, you know, operating around helicopters and in life and death situations. So we, again, try to kind of create that stress on these folks during rescue trials by just operating in the heat at a high tempo with kind of very demanding, rigorous work and mentally challenging work as well. So it's oftentimes, you know, in the middle of the afternoon, 7 or 8 hours in, we're looking for for these people to not only be taking care of themselves by drinking water and staying up on their nutrition and making sure that they're taking care of themselves and still being safe, but also looking out for their teammates. It's one thing if you start to get a little dehydrated or hyponatremic yourself, but what we really worry about is looking out for our teammates. So we're looking for two things: for these folks to take care of themselves, and also to make sure that their teammates aren't getting into trouble with dehydration and heat illnesses and et cetera. I think another question just popped up. Let me take a look.
I'll take this one. How often do you have to do a rescue, or on average? And really, so when Spence and I started, cell phones were a thing, but they didn't reach into the middle of the superstitions, and they didn't go into the bottom of canyons like they do now. So our search load, and like the amount of searches that we went on, was our primary, like our bread and butter. And we were out at the superstitions during the nice times of the year, the shoulder season. So like the fall and the spring, gosh, every weekend, and sometimes on Wednesday. And that we were probably averaging 60 or 80 rescues a year. Now we're very much reduced because people have their cell phones. We can get a location on them and fly the helicopter to wherever they are. So it's really only, which is kind of a double-edged sword, because what we've created is an environment where we thrive on the action and getting experience and going out and rescuing people. And so when we have these long periods where we don't actually get to practice, it's really hard to stay motivated, but that's when they'll need us the most. And it's really hard to impress that upon the newest people that join the team, because the idea is like, you know, they sometimes the helicopter just does everything for us. And what'll happen is, like, we get to this sense of security, just like humans often do. And then it'll be that one time when the helicopter can't fly because of bad weather, and the only way to get to them is by having a group like ours that can get to somebody when the weather's terrible and it's dark and they've been out there for too long. And so that's why we train. We continue to train to the level that we do because of that one case. And you know, it's happened before, and that's when it'll happen again.
So the next question here, a couple of really good questions just came up. Have you guys been to have you guys rescued anyone in caves like Pepper Sauce Cave or Scout Cave? We've actually trained in both of those caves. I'm not I think we've done at least one or two rescues in Pepper Sauce. I'm not sure. I haven't personally done a rescue in Scout Cave, but I believe our team has. But yeah, those are really classic examples of where we've had to perform rescues. There's also a group, is it the Phoenix Grotto or the Arizona Grotto?
Yeah.
That really we work with and kind of rely on heavily for our underground training from them. They're sort of like the underground equivalent of that Arizona Mountaineering Club we spoke about earlier, where they oftentimes perform rescues of people within their society. But yeah, those are two very popular common caves. The next question was, how does a person maintain a job and do this as a volunteer? That's the best question we'll get all night. That is the second most challenging thing after the physical training, is selling your boss on why you need to leave at a moment's notice, or text him at 1 a.m. saying, hey, I'm not going to be in the morning. I was very, very fortunate that I was able to present what this team does to my boss and show him the value in what we're doing, and really explain, like Justin mentioned earlier, you know, we are kind of the last defense. If we don't show up, like, you know, and we being Justin and I, for example, no one else is going to. You know, we are who shows up when you call 911. And once I was able to explain that to my boss, it certainly made it easier. I think everyone on our team the mentality it takes to want to dedicate your spare time and energy to this, I think draws a certain type of person who is a hard worker by nature. And so I think generally speaking, we all are kind of in good standing with our employers. So we were able to get a little slack. But I've certainly irritated my boss more than a few times with late night text messages of, I'm headed out. I don't know if I'll be in to work in the morning or not. And there's also plenty of times where we got out of the field just in the nick of time to drive straight to work. There was plenty of times where I got out of a mission, drove straight to work, slept in the parking lot for a couple of hours or maybe 1 hour, and changed clothes and snuck into work and tried to just drink extra coffee that day.
Yeah. My favorite conversation with the boss is when we get a page out and like you have this really important assignment at work. But I work in the environmental field. Spencer works in the automotive field, and it's like I rarely anyways at work deal with life and death circumstances. So when I'm faced with this really important assignment versus saving somebody's life, and you go to the boss and say, "Hey, do you mind if I go?" And how would that look when they have to say, "Nah, this assignment is much more important"? Like that, it's not a hard sell.
Yeah.
But definitely annoying. For families, that's the other that's the other commitment, is like, how much time do you spend in your community? And both Spencer and I and anybody on the team really will spend 1,000 hours a year, especially during the recruit year, just getting familiar. 1,000 hours donated and devoted to changing our lives and other people's lives in our communities. But it's totally worth it. All the struggle and all of the difficult conversations is completely worth it.
Yes, Central Arizona Grotto, I see on the chat there. That's a really tremendous resource that our team has used many times. Just because that's one of our several disciplines where that's all they do. They've really helped us out a lot. Central Arizona Grotto is a fantastic organization.
Yeah.
Before they hire the team full time and pay them, that's
so
also a really good question.
So I don't mean to interrupt too much, but I do want to get into like the 2 missions that we prepared. So Spencer, if you want to take this one, and then I'll jump right into the mission after this.
So this was a mission out on Four Peaks with a daughter and a father. When we show the news clips, you may have actually seen this on the news a couple of years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant answer that question, and then yeah, and then I'll present this one, and then you present the LaBarge one.
Perfect. I was gonna say yeah, perfect. Why can't they hire a team full time and pay them? So that's a really good question. I'll try to keep it as diplomatic and succinct as possible, but budget is the short answer. The long answer is it's just be very difficult. So on our team, at kind of our height of membership, we had about 30 people who were field ready to go at any given time. The expense with paying these folks full-time wages and 30 people year round, when there's times where we go weeks or months without a mission, I just think it would be very difficult for any municipality to justify. We've worked with other teams that did have paid members, and in my anecdotal experience, when there's someone who's in a life and death situation, if I were in that situation, I'd rather have a team of people who are coming to get me, who are doing it purely for the passion and love of the outdoors and the calling of helping others, rather than someone who's just doing it for a paycheck. I also think that and I worry that we come across as, braggadocious or conceited when we speak about the team, but it's just something we're very proud of. And so when I think about that, some of the situations we put ourselves in or asked to be put in to provide these missions, I'm not sure that I could justify it for a dollar amount. If you were to ask me, what would the salary be to perform some of these missions, I'm not sure you could put a number on it, because you really have to do it just because of your strong sense of community and wanting to help people. I don't think, for me personally, I'd rather perform in the way that we do out of volunteerism rather than a paycheck. But that being said, there are plenty of organizations around the country that do have paid people to do this. Oftentimes, it's sheriff's deputies that receive special training. They'll be, sheriff's deputies most of the time, and then when they get called to a mission, they'll show up. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you, Spencer. All right, so we're going to try to move through these rescues. I'll try to be as visually descriptive as I can. There's a video that I'm going to show that's from Bruce Hefner during like one of the rescues that we were actually performing, and he's pretty good at describing things, but I'll stop it along the way and I'll try to give a description as well. But basically, one of the missions that really sunk in for me is for multiple reasons. One, it was like incredibly technical, like lots of technical, and I'll explain that in a minute. But it also had a really great resolution, and there was like the human element to it, which I always find like the most rewarding is when we can reconnect the families and we can bring people safely back. And our paycheck is an appreciative person. So like, the technical aspect of it is like really rewarding and everything. But if somebody can like look at you and say, thanks for what you do, that's really my paycheck. It's not required. And often we've been, just kind of like dismissed completely. So we look at other things to make it rewarding. Like, yeah, you know what? Even if they didn't acknowledge it, I still feel like I did a good thing. But that human aspect to it and an element, and like married with everything else, it was really a mission that stuck in my mind. So for this one, it's a case study on the Four Peaks. If anybody's not familiar with the geography of the area, the Four Peaks is the highest mountain range that you can see if you're standing in Phoenix and you're looking east, like pretty much due east. And sometimes it's snow capped, and it's at about 7,000 feet, a little above. During the winter, you get like ice on the faces of like the exposure of the mountains that don't have sunlight, and it's high altitude. So this one was a case where it was actually in the middle of the summer. We left at Saguaro Lake, and who packs anything for winter or cold in the middle of the summer? Nobody. We flew up there, and it was 50 degrees, wind chill at night, and it was just bitter cold. And all I had was an emergency blanket. So it's enough to keep you alive, but it is very uncomfortable. So the case was, there was a 25-year-old female and a 57-year-old male. There was a father and daughter, and they went on this hiking trip, and he's always wanted to do the Four Peaks. And he had a significant medical issue just preceding this trip. And he was like, you know what? If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. He was just out of the hospital for that medical issue, though. And so maybe it wasn't great timing to do this. If anybody's ever been up the Four Peaks, there's really only one way, and it's through this chute that every once in a while, like once every couple of years, somebody dies because they slipped, fell, and this chute just is 1,000 foot of slippery scree that you just end up in this like cloud of rock and dust, and nobody sees you again. I mean, it is horrendous, and that's really the only way to the top. Because of the challenges there, the high winds of the helicopters and everything else. Like the helicopters aren't great at getting people like to the top to be able to rescue where these folks were. They got us to the saddle and we had to hike in. Not just hike in, but this guy was reportedly not ambulatory, which means that he can't walk and he can't assist or affect his own rescue. So we're gonna have to strap him in to the ropes and lower him down several thousand feet. Vertical terrain. It's awful. So this is the start of the video, but let me go ahead and move the screen over. Can you all see Bruce Hefner? Famous helicopter pilot, News Channel 3. Okay. Let me know if you can hear it too. Can you hear that? You guys can't hear the audio. Let me
You just have to reshare your screen, and if you share your screen at the bottom of it, it will say with audio.
Oh, okay. So share this guy. Oh, I see. It actually said it right there. Sorry, I'll figure this out in just a second. So new share computer sound, and this guy, right?
Tell me wide shot here and show you the 4 peaks.
You got it? Great.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna let it play and I'll stop it when it's a key spot.
Area out here to the east of town, a beautiful mountain, and I've actually hiked to the top of this thing, but I haven't hiked to this area. Let me give you a close-up shot here. We flew over it here and got a closer shot of the rescuers bringing down a man, and we believe
So if you can, like, it's kind of blurry, but this is the guy, and this is where we're at right now. And Bruce is gonna back out and you'll get a perspective, and I'll try to keep my arrow pointed on where they are, because you can't really tell like how terrible of a location they're in right now.
Daughter up there, and they came last night, had to scale to the top of 4 peaks, bring them warm clothes, blankets, and probably food, and now they're slowly, the Maricopa County.
So this is us, and what the helicopter pilot just did, or cameraman, was just panned up the mountain and like up this draw. And what we're doing is we're setting up this technical rope system, and we're lowering him down during this video. And so we're lowering him from above. Our ropes are only 300 feet long, and this is a couple thousand feet or a few thousand feet. So imagine how many different anchor stations we had to set up just to get him to safety.
Sheriff's technical rescue crew, we believe, slowly bringing both of them down from the top of the mountain, and this is what they call and why they call it a technical rescue. Look at this, the gentlemen, they're helping him down.
So we try to think ahead as well. You can see there's this yellow webbing. That's part of an anchor that we build, and it's attached to trees and rocks. And so what we tried to do was have people go in like down the mountain first and set up these anchor stations so we could just plug them in with the ropes and go.
Down, they've got a line around him, and basically just bringing him down, scaling down from the top, the very top of 4 peaks. Imagine that. How would you like to be up there here, and all of a sudden it gets dark on you, and you're going to spend the night out there. You aren't prepared. You don't have warm clothes. You maybe are running out of water. It all becomes sort of a dangerous situation at that point for everybody involved. And then now we'll come back to a live shot here and show you at the top of 4 peaks. And let me move in a little bit.
So he's moving in. This is the draw.
Get in this area where they are.
This is the top.
Gonna
see, he can't really make us out, but this
I think
is the draw.
Top left crevice here. Oh, here they are right here. So that shows you where they are.
Isn't that awful?
There you go. Going on right now here in the 4 peaks. We are running into quite a few mountain rescues because this is the time everybody gets out, and That's what's going on up here. So they're going to bring him down. I'm assuming they're going to bring him down all the way, if they can,
right
down
here
to the parking lot. This is a, you don't want to add any more risk to this rescue
The top is
by,
here. We're here.
trying other things like
And
bringing the
the
helicopter
saddle
in. The winds up here, I will tell you, are pretty high
like
and
down
challenging for us actually flying the helicopter. We're right on top of it, but still, these are the situations where, the technical rescue, if it becomes dangerous for rescuers, then you got to come up with plan B. And I think the safest thing at this point, maybe for these rescuers, would be bringing them down the mountain. And here we go. We're still live here.
So basically what that was he said, you have to come up with a plan B. We were on plan Z. I mean, we'd spent all night out there with them, and it was just like one of the most, one of the most spectacular rescues I've been able to be on. And I'll just finish with this. When we were in this gully, finally we were able to get the National Guard with Black Hawk helicopters to come in, rescue helicopters with hoists, and they're hovering above us, and we're like, nope, can't do it here, right? Like the winds were crazy, and they're looking down at us, and we finally said, like, waved them off because there's just too much noise and too much danger from just like the rotor blades knocking rocks down and stuff. So we got them down to the saddle, and the helicopter was able to come in at the saddle where it was much safer and affect like a hoist operation, and then get the guy down to the valley very quickly. Then they left one of the rescuers from the Air National Guard there, and he was debriefing with the team at the end of this mission. And he looked at us and he said, "You guys are crazy." So if the National Guard guy that's flying on a helicopter being lowered down and up with a hoist calls us crazy because what he saw we were doing, like I wouldn't like take that lightly, and I don't take that lightly. It's really spectacular what we do, and that's part of like why Spencer was saying, like, not to toot our own horns, but it's a really, really rewarding and an incredible thing to be a part of. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Spencer. This is the National Guard helicopter, and now Spencer's.
So this was the first major mission Justin and I were on. We were either still recruits or had just joined the team, but I mean, either way, had never been on a real technical mission before. And so we get called out for this mission way deep into the superstitions, into a canyon I had never even heard of at the time. A gentleman was hiking with 3 of his friends. They tried to climb up a small waterfall, and one of them fell backwards. And when he fell, one of his feet landed in between 2 rocks, and he fell over backwards and broke his leg between the knee and the ankle, like compound fracture, pretty obvious, significant break. They were so deep, they had no cell phone service. So out of the 3 of them, one stayed with the gentleman who broke his leg, and one of them had to hike out. I think it was 7 or 8 miles to the nearest road. And then I think he hitchhiked once he got into the road and rode with a stranger until they could get cell phone service to call 911. So from the time that he fell and broke his leg to the time that we were dispatched was 7 or 8 hours. So this poor guy was laying with a broken leg for 7 or 8 hours. And then we still had to get to him. So most of us had about an hour-long drive out to the superstitions, and then we had to get put into the field by helicopter. So we can go to the next slide.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'll get the hang of it.
Most of us. So this is us kind of just rigging the litter. We talked about this Stokes litter before. This litter, as you can see, is kind of a aluminum titanium cage that we could put someone in. This plastic shield over the top is a face shield, so that way if any falling debris, rock, dust, rotor wash from helicopters, their face is protected. So we arrived on scene. We were able to land on kind of the edge of a cliff and do what's called a one skid egress from the helicopter. So the helicopter kind of came in parallel to the top of the cliff, where they can only get one of their skids on the helicopter and land, where they kind of jump out and hover all of our gear. Next slide, please.
Because when I came in here a few minutes ago, it was okay.
Yeah, me too. And then it quit. It went right back to where.
So this is the
Oh,
view.
I
from the
did
top.
too many.
Sorry, that's all right. So from the top, this is kind of all we could see initially was just black darkness below, but we could make verbal contact with the folks below and find out they were down there. So we let them know that we were going to lower someone down to them, which was an EMT, to make first contact and kind of assess the situation there, while the rest of us built stations on top to build a system to lower down and pick them back up. Next slide. So now you can see where they are. It gives you a little more perception of how far down it is. We got some team members there right away. We were lucky enough to have our team doctor on this particular mission who actually specializes. He's an orthopedic surgeon who specializes in ankle and foot surgery, just coincidentally. So couldn't have been probably a better person than all of Maricopa County to be there for this guy with a broken leg. We were able to give him IV fluids and IV drugs for the pain. And start working on getting him out. Next slide. This is just some of the rope systems that went. This is the view from the bottom looking up. We just had this kind of tight chimney of access to get through. And what is hard to tell from these photos is all of the sides and everything you're looking at is all loose debris. So everything we touch would kind of break loose and fall. At one point while we were raising the subject up, a large basketball-sized boulder broke loose and actually landed on that face shield that we talked about. And it was my first real personal experience of how that safety equipment is so important. We would have not been only dealing with a broken leg at that point, but potentially a fractured skull if that rock would have hit him in the face. Again, another example of what we're dealing with on some of these missions. You can see this kind of thorny, pokey bush that's tangled in the ropes. There was cacti everywhere, just kind of more challenges to kind of face while we were working through this and get him out. Again, just another shot of the lines going up. I think this is when we were finally lowering the litter down to him. Obviously, we lower it down empty, load him up at the bottom, and then bring him back up to the top. So that mission had a happy ending. We were able to get him out. We loaded him in a helicopter, again, hovering kind of on the side of a cliff. We loaded him with that litter into the helicopter, which flew him into town, got him to the hospital. I think he ended up saving his leg, but he was in the hospital for a while due to being down there for so long without treatment. Just due to the nature of being so far out, he had a pretty bad outcome for that leg, but we were able to get him out and get his friends back home. And like Justin said early on, that was kind of the mission that solidified this team for me. I was able to really get a good experience early on of having a firsthand impact on really helping somebody and getting them out of harm's way. So I think we are really just at the end of our time here. Again, we both, I think, want to really thank you guys for having us here. We probably have just a few more minutes for any more questions, but again, just thanks for having us. It was an honor to be here and share the evening with you guys, and just thanks.
Absolutely. Do we have any more questions?
I do have one question. You guys did a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you. But just like, having that stamina and desire, to go out there and to serve others is remarkable. But have you realized, is there a magic age or process to when a person kind of moves out of doing this? Or do you have people still doing it at my age, old?
Yeah, so that's one thing we pride ourselves on is the kind of the diversity of our team. We have everything from students. We have a minimum age requirement of 18 years old, but we have students, the retirees, and everything in between. All kind of walks of lives: doctors, lawyers, mechanics, scientists, a little bit anything and everything, and just a strong passion to help others and outdoor enthusiasm is really all it takes.
Cool.
I have a question. Where would someone send a donation if they wanted to donate?
Yeah. On our website, it's mountainrescue.org. There's a button that you can hit for donate. You can also, on that same website, there's a PO box that you can send a check if that's easier, if you don't have like an online. And please, we are 100% subside on donations, and all of the equipment does cost a lot of money. And so not just you, but like let your friends and family know that, you know, like that we exist, and we're out there to help people that enjoy the outdoors, and we're all part of that community.
Next time you see a
Thank you.
rescue on the news, look for the orange shirts. That's us.
There you go.
Awesome.
Also, Marianne, on the newsletter that you got announcing the series tonight, there's their link to donate as well on that.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Debbie, do you have a question?
Yeah, just a great presentation. Was there someone, or maybe he still is on your team, Eric? Can't remember his last name.
Bully?
I'm not sure. Did he work for 360 Adventures? Do you know?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Okay, because when I turned 50, I wanted to rappel and rock climb. And so that was one of my goals. And so anyway, I hired him, 360 Adventures. And so he was the one who took me out to Echo Canyon. It was the best experience. And then a couple years later, I saw him at the Phoenix Summit Challenge. He was there, and that's when he told me he worked for, well, not worked for, but was there for Mountain Rescue. And so anyway, is he still with you guys?
He's actually putting on our land navigation training. He's not in the operational side anymore, so
Okay.
he doesn't actually respond to missions.
Okay.
But this isn't just a hobby, it's a lifelong commitment. So even if you're not on the team responding to missions, you will always feel connected by this bond of like being able to save lives, and the things that you've gone through, the adversity in like trying to help the community, and helping the community is like, it's really a strong association. So he actually just never could let go of the team, which is typical. And he's actually helping us put together a training right now.
Well, that's great. I don't know if you remember me, I'm totally blind, and my name is Debbie, and this was like 10 years ago. So anyway, just tell him I said hi. It was great meeting him, and so thank you.
I'll text him right now.
Thank you very
I'd be
much.
really happy to hear that.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I have a question.
Go ahead, Nora.
Yeah, what if there's two people, Justin, and what's the other guy's name?
Spencer.
Spencer? Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation, and both of you. Wonderful, wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you guys so much for doing this and everything that you guys do. Just so everyone knows, this will be recorded, and it will be on our YouTube, and we'll be putting it out on our social media and on our website for any of you guys that to go back and maybe watch it again, or maybe you forgot something. And then join us next month. We're going to have another virtual adventure. It's to be announced, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
And we never know when we're going to need this kind of a rescue, so it's wonderful to know about.
Absolutely.
Yep, could be us.
Alrighty, well, I will see you guys next month, and hopefully I will see you guys soon, actually in person.
Very awesome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Actually,
Bye,
Sarah,
you guys.
yeah,
Bye, Jen.
Bye. See you later.
See you all later. Thank you.